and or journalist, and you talk to people on the radio. I mean, if I had an opportunity to interview the devil himself, if I actually had an opportunity to interview maybe Satan, wouldn't you take it? I mean, it's the devil. Here, hello, I'm the devil. Would you like to interview me? Would you like to find out what I know? Would you like to find out what I've been doing to humanity? I would think that you would interview the devil. And since we're becoming less and less of a Christian nation, and again, because I had Michael Aquino on the program, and I'm just thinking to myself, what if Michael Aquino was president? What if he didn't eat a baby or anything, in the interview? I'm just thinking if we were all Satanists, I suppose. Do you imagine what the rush on baby would be like the day before Thanksgiving? Oh, what do you mean you didn't get a baby before Thanksgiving? Well, I got mine home fresh from Foster Farms. So the interesting backlash has been that we have had some lovely, and here's what I'm trying to do also. On Monday, and actually a couple of times next week, I'm going to have people on the program who are born-again Christian, fundamentalists, if you will, people that deal in Christian prophecy and Christian end-of-the-world scenarios or whatever else, and I'm going to talk to them and see what they have to say about things. And again, there were people that said, well, there are questions that I maybe should have asked Aquino. Well, I may have him back. I didn't want to jump him the first time that he came on the program. I didn't want to present anything about it. And, there's been all these accusations made against him, but I have yet to see, I've never seen anybody charge him with anything. I don't think he's ever been to jail for anything. I don't think he's ever been to court for anything. It'd be interesting if anybody actually presented one shred of credible evidence against this person, against this man, for all the things they claim he's done. But what's happening is that we've had this backlash from and I played some of the backlash of a guy who came on, didn't want to face me in person, but came on and started beating up on Steve, for example, in Steve's show afterwards. And, and then Nighthawk came in and he made all these ridiculous accusations about, I don't know, Nighthawk's partner or something, hosting a website domain name or something about women who pass gas in men's faces or something, which just sounds funny to me. But and now we have one of the smear dogs out there. These people are trolls that live under bridges, and so one of the smear dogs out there who somehow has, like a weasel, has weasel and wormed his way into the Skype of some of our producers, who's now who's trying this old smear crap against me. About a guy that I sued years ago for libel. Actually sued him for slander and libel, this jackass, and said, I'm not going to engage in some flame war with you. I'm not going to make you famous by bringing you up to a level that is a level of attention that is completely undeserving. And the bottom line of this is that I sued one of these smear guys on the web. And this was back before, and unfortunately, the only reason the case was dismissed was because the judge was like, well, it's the internet. I don't quite understand it. It's not a publication like a newspaper or whatever. And unfortunately, the case was dismissed. I mean, and it was funny because the smear guy, all I said in my case was, if you have a shred of evidence, if you have any proof whatsoever to any of your ridiculous allegations, of things that and again, it's like having somebody who just follows you around and everything that you said you've done with your life just goes, did not. I mean, that was the level of discourse with this jagoff. Did not. So you just have to walk around with that. I mean, they claimed I never went to college, which is ridiculous. They claimed schools I went to. I never went to school in Egypt, which is ridiculous because they changed the name of school. They never went to, that I'd never gone to USC, which is completely absurd because I have 2 degrees from the place. And, if I'd never gone, my parents probably wonder where their $200,000 went. So, it's just foolish. So it's, and so in regards to this, for example, I said to this guy, well, defend yourself with the truth. And his response was actually, I'm not big enough to have harmed him. He was bragging that he had 1 million hits on his website, and he was the #1 site for this and all this other crap. And actually in the court documents, he'd had a grand total of, I think, 3,000 people. 3,000 people, which is what he said. Well, only 3,000 people have ever even visited my site, so not enough people pay attention to me to have harmed him. And then the other thing was that I can say anything I want about him because he's famous. He's a public figure like the president. I can say anything I want because he's like the president. I'm not even kidding. This was his defense. So it's so again, I am more than happy to present people with the born again Christian point of view. I went to a ton of extra church myself throughout my life. Again, my family was, I think we were Catholics first, and then we were Episcopalians, and then we were Lutherans, and then we were Southern Fundamentalist born-again Christians, and I used to listen to Bible tapes every day, and I told you I wasn't representing anything Mr. Aquino believes in. He was a person specifically that had something to do with a series of mind control operations that I believe have been used on the American public. And thank you for the caller the other day, because my biggest question was, how could he have not have heard of the Tavistock Institute? And I'll submit a list of questions to him and maybe have him back on the air, and I'll grill him a little harder the next time. I gave him a pass on his book Mind War about what was going on with him. But, again, his defense was that he thought that the allegations against him were so outlandish and ridiculous and had no basis in reality whatsoever that he never fought them, ever. So it just started to build and build and build and build and build. And when you're an active worshiper of Satan and you're a very high-level Pentagon official, there is that. And I point out that they all work in a building that's a gigantic inverted pentagram. Why is the Pentagon the shape it is? It's the point of the Pentagon faces south. It's a giant black magic symbol. The whole thing. And what is the Pentagon? The Pentagon is nothing if a gigantic black magic organization that is dedicated to killing people. It is not a charity. It is not an altruistic organization. They don't although what the United States is, first we will drop bombs on you and we will follow it with food, which of course is the weird kind of Gemini rising dichotomy of this country, because we always have to be the good guy. We always have to be the hero. We're not just invading your country to get your oil or to get your coltan or to get your minerals. We're invading your country because, we know what's right for you. We're invading your country because we know better. We're going into Africa not because we're trying to push out the Chinese, who, by the way, have been friends to the Africans. They've gone in and said, oh, we'll build your bridge, we'll build your school, we'll build your toilets, we'll build your sanitation, without caring who actually runs the country. We go in and say, well, we'll do all these things for you, but we don't really like your president there, who I don't think he's a right man for the job, because we know better. We Americans, we know better about what y'all should be doing here. So, and now that we've been completely skunked by the Chinese in Africa, now we've created Ebola. So now we have to go in and say, now we have, onward Ebola soldiers. We have Ebola soldiers, apparently with specialized Ebola guns that are going to go in and kill Ebola. So, anyway, it's just... And, now the CDC, Ebola is just running along, and now the CDC is riding this giant snail to the rescue, where now we have an Ebola czar, this Klain guy, who's on top of this snail saying, oh, I'll cover your rear, with Obama riding the snail. Obama versus Ebola. I just wonder, because Obama's been so successful as a president, I wonder who's going to win that one. I wonder where that one's going to go. So, anyway. So there is that. Now, a couple of things, a lot of interesting things coming in, and we'll talk about this. And as I said, there was all this controversy behind the scenes on my having Aquino on, because we have another host on this network who has made a series of accusations against him, and says that he knows things, and to which this other gentleman, Aquino, has just thrown up his hands and said, I have no idea what you're talking about, wasn't there, didn't do it. But it's so there it is. Now, a friend of mine sent me an interesting tweet. That we have nobody on the border. We've got the Border Patrol for the southern border of the United States, which is approximately 1,700 miles long. And remember when they were going to build the big fence? Remember they put $40 billion aside to build the fence? And we're going to build this fence, and the big fence is going in, and then an investigative reporter went down and said, well, when is it going in? Well, we don't know. Well, how much money is for it? Well, we don't know. Well, who's the construction company? Well, we haven't picked one. So the whole thing was, there was a debate in Congress and the Senate for months about building some kind of border security fence, which was so obvious was never going to get built. So the Border Patrol, we have as many people on the Border Patrol defending this country, not the Pentagon, mind you, out blowing up other countries. All these veterans who are all like, oh, thank you for your service to our country. Well, the real people who are serving the country are the Border Patrol, the people who are actually defending the United States. And yet, Obama and Eric Withholder have given guns to Mexican drug lords on Operation Fast and Furious because it sounded fun now. It's a movie. It's exciting. And they've murdered our Border Patrol guys with them. Now, we don't even let Border Patrol guys shooting back at them. We don't even give them bullets for their guns. And most of these people know this. So we have as many people protecting our 1,700 miles of border as the Philadelphia Police Department has policemen to protect the city of Philadelphia, which is getting pretty bad. I guess the city of Philadelphia is like Dodge City now. The city of Philadelphia, in that area in Pennsylvania, there was an entire county. Just to give you an idea, there was an entire county on the outskirts of Philadelphia where there was not one vote cast for Mitt Romney. I will leave you to ponder that one. So here it is. In Falfurrias, Texas, Tracy Sanders tweets, just went through the most intensive border inspection I've gone through in the last year, and half of traveling to the valley. Either the Border Patrol has really picked it up and are taking their jobs more seriously, or they know something we don't. So this other girl goes, or he wanted in your drawers, playa. It was a white girl pretending to be a black girl. And he says, well, I hope that wasn't it. If that's what the border inspector dudes do, we are doomed. I'm glad they're being more tough. I got nothing to hide and was glad to cooperate. Just somewhere in the back of my mind, I think Homeland told them we got intel that said something bad is coming. So what used to be like 3 trucks in this particular crosspoint, there's now like 40, according to this guy who just went there. And of course, this is how we get a lot of news and information that comes directly from, our friends out there. And it's all, this is why we've got live radio. This is why we've got radio that's directly connected to you for this kind of thing. When you're also talking about it, let me just talk about the military for just a second. There was an interview between an Army captain and his captors that makes clear the senselessness of what's happening, for example, in the war in the Ukraine. On October 15th, ANNA News released a conversation between Vladislav Perenoshkov, a 31-year-old captain of the Ukrainian army, and Ukrainian separatist Marat Musin and Sergei Brezhnev. And Pereshnikov led a reconnaissance unit and fought in the town Victory, where his non-combat ready unit lost 16 to 18 men. And Pereshnikov's captors tried to understand the motivations of a soldier who came to kill his fellow countrymen fighting for the independence from the Washington-backed government. Now, the conversation was an honest look at the way one soldier risked his life and risked killing innocent people without stopping to think about why or who benefits, nor whether his cause was particularly just. And the questions forced Pereshnikov to take personal responsibility for, quote, just following orders that benefit the oligarchs who looted his country. Why are you here? Asked Brezhnev. You literally came here to destroy people the same as you. Do you know that most people here are peaceful, or did you not know that? And apparently it had not occurred to Pereshnikov that he had come to fight his own countrymen. And Captain Pereshnikov said that the powers in Kiev are likely Jewish, not Ukrainian. And the interviewer asked, so why are you following the will of internationalists and agreed to kill Jewish powers pitted Slavs against Slavs? So in that case, why are you following this power on a leash? Why are you going to kill Russian people and Ukrainian people who live here? They didn't come to you. You came here. So it turns out that you are against oligarchs, this what you call Jewish capital, that on orders from Washington pushes Ukrainians to kill Russians, and yet you are ready to die for this. You aimed weapons at Slavic brothers. To benefit whom? Did you stop to think about any of this? And the interviewer continued, quote, separatism, do you know what that is? Why don't you give the right to those who live in eastern Ukraine to live in another way than they live in western Ukraine? You say this war by fault of the previous president, Viktor Yanukovych, and current president, Petro Poroshenko. Why aren't you fighting against them? Why did you come here? Why didn't you turn the men around and say, let's go the other way and ask where they sent us and why? Or don't you have enough brains for that? Do you have officer's honor? And the officer responded, yes, I have officer's honor. And excuse me, said Brezhnev, I don't see it. And Brezhnev then asked the officer if he ever asked his soldiers, what are we doing here? And the officer responded, we talk, but nobody can do anything. He says, you haven't answered, said Brezhnev. Why are you personally at war for 600 harvinas, or about $468? And the officer said he is afraid he will be jailed if he doesn't fight. And after thinking about the questions, Parishnikov said that he would not fight anymore and that he would find a way to go home. So imagine how quickly globalists would lose powerful sources about these questions and took personal responsibility for aiding the globalists from globalist profit. You know, if you just started thinking, well, why exactly are we fighting? What exactly are we doing? And what's going on here? Okay, the official county autopsy of Michael Brown from Ferguson. So we finally got some truth coming out of Ferguson, Missouri. And Michael Brown indicates that the young thug may not have had his hands raised after all, because this story is supposedly he was surrendering and he had his hands up, and the cop just, for no particular reason, just opened fire on him because, you know, that's what cops do. How many Ferguson police does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. They just shoot up the room because it's black. That's their explanation. So now it turns out that he was, his hands were not raised, but he was charging towards police officer Darren Wilson. And the killing of Brown by Wilson on August 9th sparked, of course, weeks of violent protests in Ferguson, Missouri, with demonstrators claiming Brown was unarmed and was surrendering to police when shot. The autopsy, however, found that Brown was most likely, because where the gunpowder burns were, and specifically where the hole in his hand was, shows that Brown was reaching for the officer's gun. Probably had his hand on his gun, on the holster, as gunpowder particulates discharged from the barrel of the firearm were found in the wound on Brown's thumb, which of course is impossible if he's several feet away. The autopsy also confirmed that Brown's blood was found on Wilson's gun. So there you go. Steve Travisty's not here to hear that. So, because he'll say, you're not there, Sean. You weren't there. Were you there?
You don't know what it's like down there.
Thank you, JP. While black crime tops crime statistics in every category, it has been said that serial murderers are almost always white males. I guess we're just a lot more twisty. White guys kill for no reason. That is true. If you're black and you kill somebody, you usually have a reason. It's usually robbery or rape or robbery or picnic food. I don't know, but it's just you don't have a lot of black serial killers. But it's been said that, well, nevertheless, Darren Dion Van, arrested in Gary, Indiana, has now admitted to murdering at least 7 women and leaving their bodies in abandoned houses. And police found the 7 bodies, but feel there may be many more. It could go back as far as 20 years, said Police Chief John Doherty. So, isn't that good? You know, equality in serial murder. I think it's a thing. Black folks are catching up. And by the way, Donald and Evelyn Knapp, 2 ordained ministers who own the Hitching Post Wedding Chapel in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, were told they had to either perform same-sex marriages or face 6 months jail time and up to a $1,000 fine, according to a lawsuit that was filed against them October 17th in federal court. A court document submitted by the couple's lawyer states, quote, the Knapps cannot perform same-sex marriage ceremonies and publicly bless same-sex marriage, out of their personal religious belief that marriage is a sacred union established by God between a man and a woman. Same-sex marriage became legal in Idaho on October 15th, even though the vast majority of citizens are opposed to it. It became legal in Idaho on the 15th. And these people were sued 2 days later. 2 days later. So there was some kind of plan that was actually put into place there, which I think is pretty interesting. Okay, now his name, this is actually this guy's name, Shamil Tarpezchev. Shamil Tarpezchev is the president of the Russian Tennis Federation.
Actually, hey,
yes, sir.
No. Sorry, that was a really, really. I'll tell you off air. Maybe we'll talk about it in the next section. But anyway, go on.
Well, moon's in Scorpio today, so I sort of planned on today's show. I figured was going to be kind of a sex and death kind of show anyway.
All right. Okay,
we're formally in Scorpio, so go ahead.
Since we're in that, okay.
All right.
Have you heard of a guy called Andrew Bartzis?
No.
All right. We had him on the show on the station a couple of years ago. I mean, he's been doing the rounds. He's pretty out there psychic. Anyway, but there was one thing he was saying is that there is an intergalactic black market in human babies.
Huh.
And that they were using a special teleportation trick by encasing them in gold.
This sounds like a Green Lantern comic book.
I know, it really does. And they were able to smuggle them out because the gold shielded them from whatever detectors they were detecting, because there is a DNA trade. They're part of the DNA trade.
Huh.
In this enormous intergalactic, interdimensional mafia situation that is going on. Anyway, he was talking about this, and it was like, well, that sounds really out there, Andrew. Nobody will ever hear about that.
Well, except Kerry Cassidy will no doubt interview him.
Well,
and put him up on Project Camelot, and once again, and again, all these people seem to
hang on a second.
They read Green Lantern comic books, and then they memorize them, and then they're somehow up on Kerry Cassidy's Project Camelot site.
But however, what happened is, must be about a year later or so, I saw a news report, a real news report about, and they had, no kidding, gold leaf wrapped aborted fetuses. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
They were part of this big bust that they did.
What?
Yeah. It's
okay, and where was the bust? Was this England? Was this the United States?
Somewhere in the Far East, China,
right?
Somewhere.
Wow.
Like that.
That's amazing. That's amazingly creepy.
Yeah. Well, you were. I mean, you did bring up babies, and then suddenly this thought snapped back into my mind. Oh my God! I remember Andrew talking about this, and then it was corroborated later. Because Andrew is. He'll say something that is just totally overwhelming and never provable. And oddly enough, you hear little echoes coming back saying, "Well, actually, he was pretty spot on with that." So anyway, intergalactic, interdimensional mafia trading in baby DNA, which is not allowed to come off the Earth, which is why they have to smuggle it in gold wrap.
Wow. Because apparently the Watchers or the Positive Federation or something has banned this kind of intergalactic trade.
Absolutely. I mean, because Earth DNA is valuable, apparently.
Well, we are immensely interesting. If you actually look at, just from the number one, I think we're probably, and I think they did a South Park episode about this, but we have got to be the greatest reality show in the universe. Even the Bible talks about how angels who have no free will are fascinated with us, and they sit apparently in bleachers up there just watching our every move, and are a cosmic or galactic audience of some kind. Theoretically under Christianity as well. You have the crucifixion of Christ as the number one program throughout the universe, to see the incarnation of the creator son of this universe actually submitting to the passion of the crucifixion to pay for the collective sins of mankind, picking up the check for the entire table, so to speak. And at the same time, we're a genetic storehouse. I mean, if you really think about it, JP, if you think about it, we come from a planet that has massively diverse flora and fauna, massively diverse humanity. I mean, if you read a lot of the UFO contact books. I mean, for example, Wendell Stevens, who was a good friend for many years. Wendell Stevens wrote something like 60 books on all of this, and it was like contact from Umo and contact from Dryaga and contact from Cortium, and the Umo books were particularly interesting because there was a lot of physical evidence of scientists that they were contacting in Spain, actually enough, and photographs of the ships and a very detailed analysis of their culture and how they lived and how they came here, and they came from like the Wolf 420 23 star system, which I thought was weird because then years later, that was where the big Star Trek Next Generation battle happened, was like Wolf 426 with the Borg and all this other stuff. But you find that they seem to have one race per planet. Many of these extraterrestrials have actually solved the complications of war and famine and starvation and most of the social problems and what have you. And of course here we have, I mean, if you look at, maybe this is like a lifeboat or something, but I mean, we have multiple planets, multiple people from multiple planets that seem to come from multiple racial backgrounds and ethnicities. And the theory is, for example, is that, and this is, of course, if you take things from the Billy Meyer UFO case and things from all the various contactee data that, and a lot of it, and I actually had to read something like 4,000 pages of contact notes of the Billy Meyer case because I worked on a movie about Billy Meyer. I wrote a script called Message from the Pleiades that I've been trying to get produced for years, which I always thought that a Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or somebody would jump on because it's one of the few globally recognized UFO contact cases. And they believe that all of the beings in this universe all came from another collapsing universe that came through the Ring Nebula, which is in the constellation of Lyra. And that there were these Lyrian giants, and the Lyrian giants, these blonde giants, kind of raged across the solar system like the Vikings, if you will. And they were fighting an ongoing intergalactic war, oddly enough, from those with a race of beings who are the progenitors, apparently, of the Japanese, who were called the Nissan, very much like the car or the car company. And it's interesting because Mazda, which is a car here, is actually their version of Mighty Thor, their version of the God of Thunder, as an example. But supposedly
Japan calls itself Nippon.
Nippon, yes, Nippon. Maybe it wasn't Nippon, but I'm pretty sure it was Nissan that they were talking about.
Yeah, well, there's a car manufacturer called Nissan. Interestingly, Subaru, you know Subaru?
It's the Pleiades.
Yeah, it's the Pleiades, exactly. Yeah. And they
have
a symbol of the Pleiades on the front. They're very open about it all.
Yeah, so here you have, and you have, if you lump all the mythology together, and once again, this is just kind of a thumbnail aspect of this, you get an idea that from what I've managed to glean, you have the Negro races that all come from supposedly Sirius A, and this is where we've got the Dogon who come from there. The Dogon knew that Sirius was a binary star. All of their, and actually it's interesting, it's not only is Sirius a binary star, but the rotational axis of the two stars of Sirius, they actually rotate around each other every 33.3 years. So there's your 33rd. There's your, I've always thought, why are, in the days when we had records, back in the day, kids, they were wax things on vinyl that we put music on. But why was the rotational frequency of a record player always 33 1/3? And that was the same rotational frequency as the two suns of Sirius. And we didn't even know, by the way, that Sirius was a binary star until sometime 1950s, I think, 54, 56. We didn't even know it was a binary star. And the Dogon, for thousands of years, continued to say, yes, it's a binary star. Yes, there are planets around the binary star. Yes, they rotate around each other every 33.3 years with all their various cycles. Now, remember, too, that supposedly the black race or the Negro race actually had a gigantic empire that was destroyed, and then what then supplanted the Negro race was then the copper race or the red race. And the copper race then comes along, which is what we believe to be the ancient Atlanteans, which were a red-skinned race, and they came from Sirius B. And, of course, there was a big war between the black race and the red race. Then you have the white race that comes in. Strange enough, the Caucasoid races do not seem to have any evolutionary adaptations to this planet. You can pretty much take every other race and see that there are actual evolutionary adaptations. For example, if you look at, I'm not just sure if it's Asiatics in general, but I know the Japanese, for example, their intestines are about 6 feet shorter than anybody else because they eat so much rice and fish, and so they evolved over the course of time to have an intestinal tract that's much shorter. The Mongolians as well. And this is why it's also interesting, because here Genghis Khan, whose body they just found recently, Genghis Khan then invades Europe in somewhere around the, I think it was 12th century, 1230, somewhere in 13th century, but somewhere around about 1234, somewhere in that area. But when the Mongol horde then invades China, and then moves into Europe, and they stop along this line, by the way. If you draw a line directly from Gabon, Africa, and then goes straight up from Gabon, Africa, this line that goes north goes directly through Rome, then it goes through Berlin, then it goes all the way up into Stockholm, and this is where the Mongol horde then stops along that line. Now, the Maya believe, and this is, remember, that we're talking about a Mesoamerican culture that's talking about a global, universal brain, if you will. The Maya believe that the entire planet is a huge brain, and that the bicameral fissure of that brain that separates the two halves into east and west, if you will, that line actually runs from Gabon, Africa, straight up along that line. Now, if you're looking at the regulatory glands in the brain, and you're looking at like the hippocampus and hypophysis and all this, isn't it interesting that you have Rome along that line right between east and west? And of course, you could probably point out that Rome and the Catholic Church are, in my opinion, I think over the course of the last 2,000 years, have been the greatest regulatory organization on the planet. I mean, they've regulated sex, they've regulated religion, they've regulated belief, and the second regulator of those would probably be the offshoot of the Catholics, which were the Lutherans, the Protestants, if you will. And of course, that regulatory mechanism then comes out of Berlin. So it's just interesting. And then you have the Mongol horde that comes across, and the Mongol horde rapes everything it can get its hands on. As a matter of fact, Genghis Khan was so prolific and apparently had sex with so many women and raped so many women that 1 out of every 200 people on this planet actually has DNA that's directly related to Genghis Khan, making him one of the most influential people. Actually, I think they picked Time Magazine. Time Magazine said, "Who's the most influential person of the millennium?" In other words, in the course of the last 1,000 years. Sorry?
Who's your daddy?
Yeah, who's your daddy? Exactly. And they chose Genghis Khan. And this is also where you have, I hate to even explain this, but we have the Ashkenazic Jews that come from Eastern Europe, and they have Crohn's disease. And Crohn's disease is a twist or a bend in the bowel because it goes back to a genetic fluke that has to do with the cross between Mongolians and the Caucasoids. Now, the Caucasoid races supposedly all come from the Pleiades. And the Pleiadians, according to the Meyer case, they colonized 3 planets. They colonized Mars, Earth, and I think another planet that they called Maldek, which is the planet that then exploded. There was some kind of war, I think, between Maldek. This is what they say. This is the Billy Meyer notes. But Maldek and Mars had a war, which then exploded the planet completely. A big chunk of it flew off into space, and that leaves us with the asteroid belt. So you have the Caucasoid races that come from the Pleiades. You have the black races that come from Sirius A, the red races that come from Sirius B. They've been here long enough to be able to have some kind of genetic fluctuations as far as melatonin in the skin, as far as lighter bone density, as far as being able to go without water longer, as an example. And then you have white people who, if you're outside without a coat, you'll die. And then you have, it's interesting because then you look at China, and China, who always by the way, never referred themselves as Chinese, but when they came to this country, we called them Celestials, and because they all believe that they came here from inside the moon. And if you look at the Chariots of the God stuff, if you look at Eric von Daniken, and he talks about how, and it's so clear if you study the moon at all. I mean, if you even give a second thought to the moon, you begin to understand that the moon it's an artificial construct of some kind. It was parked in orbit. Matter of fact, even if you see that terrible, awful movie Interstellar, which some people have seen, and then they say, "Oh, it's a revelation." It sucks. Okay, it's terrible. It's the worst science fiction movie ever. And to have DeGrasse Tyson, for example, come along and talk about the scientific inaccuracies of Interstellar. I mean, scientific inaccuracy number 1 is you have Matthew McConaughey playing an astrophysicist astronaut, okay? Matthew McConaughey. You have, so they go to a planet. I don't want to wreck it before. It's an awful movie. They go to this one planet that's near this black hole on the other side of the black hole, which apparently now you can not only travel through with a spaceship, but you can travel through without a spaceship, apparently. In your spacesuit, you can go through a black hole and wind up back here by Saturn somewhere. And because of the gravitational fluxes of this planet being close to the black hole, there's all kinds of water on the planet, but that there are gigantic 1,000-foot tall tidal waves that rocket around this planet because of the fact that it's close to the black hole. If the moon had an orbit that was elliptical, not perfectly circular like it is, we would not have been able to develop life on this planet at all, because this whole planet would have had these ginormous 1,000-foot tall, and of course I've got my Mexicans from the future right outside my door every day with their jetpacks. See, now if they could only figure out the refried bean equation, they could then fly and then push themselves around with the jetpacks. So I don't even know how I got off on that. How did I get off on that? I always get off on these bizarre flights of fancy with you, JJ.
You get cosmic with me. It's great. I love it.
I know. It's your fault. So once again, we have the black races who come from Sirius A. Red races come from Sirius B. White races come from supposedly the Pleiades. Just in that one small star cluster of 6 visible stars, Meyer claims that there's 147 billion people that live there, and that the Pleiadians actually then colonized Terra. They colonized Mars, they colonized Maldek, and we are the descendants of the Pleiadians, and quite possibly they will come back and cull the herd and take the people that they like, I suppose. With the Chinese, the Chinese coming, not only parking the moon in orbit, but it is interesting because we have some evidence that, and this is very strange, that the moon has been here a very brief period of time. NASA, back in the 60s, and this was in the Houston newspapers, and this is when you grow up in aerospace, you get these weird things. At one point, somebody just decided to do the calculations of the moon. The moon has a perfectly circular orbit, and that circular orbit then apparently began to decay, because the moon is actually, every year, the moon moves away from us about 6 feet or so. So, I don't know, thousands of years from now, I suppose it'll be further away, or it may actually decay into an elliptical orbit of some kind, which would give us some problems. And I'm sure we'll have technology to fix it by then. But they just did mathematical a mathematical computation about when the moon had a perfectly circular orbit, not an ellipse of moving away from us at a particular rate. And kind of an interesting case in point as to maybe when the moon was actually parked in orbit. And they came up with the moon being, I know whatever it was, it came up to it was a cycle of like 3,600. And we had some things about every 3,600 years, kind of weird things happen and what have you. The Billy Meyer case also says that the moon came here in the wake of a destroyer comet, which is completely impossible, which I thought was another one of the holes in the Billy Meyer case. But specifically, the moon, they said the moon was parked here approximately 76,000 years ago, and that the moon began to decay actually at that point 76,000 years ago, and that although the moon could have been here much longer, but that was when the orbit decayed. And this was in the Houston Gazette or the Houston Chronicle, whatever the Houston newspaper was, said that scientists have now found that the moon had a perfectly circular orbit, possibly parked here for whatever it was, approximately 76,000 years ago. And this is back in the 60s, so you can add, I don't know, 30 years to that. So 40 years to that, actually. So that's why it's kind of interesting is that, again, all of this evidence that we have from the Apollo missions, if you just look at it, that the moon is in fact a gigantic hollow titanium yttrium sphere. We learned this when Apollo 13 crashed into the lunar surface, and we had seismographs on Apollo 11 and 12. And Apollo 11 and 12 measured the speed of sound that actually went through the lunar surface, and it went wee, and the moon that night actually when the retro package crashed into the moon, and this was a lot of people who thought that the Apollo 13 retro rocket package quite possibly could have had a nuclear weapon in it. There is a theory on this that it had a nuclear weapon, and this nuclear weapon was to be exploded on the surface of the moon in the base of the lunar module, so that we could do exactly what the Apollo 13 retro package did, which was crash into the moon. And when it crashed into the moon, and we did the seismographs of it, you can tell what different materials are made out of by the speed in which sound travels through them. Obviously, everybody knows if I'm hitting this as opposed to hitting that, as opposed to hitting this, it all sounds different because sound moves at different rates through different mediums. So therefore, what we found is that the moon, hi to Melissa, and hi to Carmen, and hi to Heather, and hi to Noreen, and hi to Susan, and Helena, and Hillary, and we have all kinds of women that listen to this show. Also, we're very sorry. We're putting stuff up on YouTube as fast as we can. It's just us out here. We don't get paid to do any of this. So These people are screaming at us, going, "Where are you on YouTube, man? Where's your YouTube channel, dude?" And I said, we've only got 4 hands and 2 heads, so it's so calm down. I understand that Strange Universe is an addictive substance. I think I've been classified now by the FDA as an officially addictive substance, I suppose. So it's may not be spectacular, but you do have to hear me every day. Now, the Oracle Report. This is a great website called the Oracle Report. It is a conversation. Well, anyway, it's a good website. Take a look at Oracle Report for astrology and all that. So here it says, join me, Janet Hickox, on Living Astrology when we discuss the black moon moving into Virgo and balsamic moon phase. It's not a salad dressing. It's field transformation. Yeah, balsamic. Yeah, it's a balsamic moon phase. So you can put some. Oh, and also I have to say hello to Angela Black as well. I have to unblock her from my Skype. Angela Black. She was being a very bad girl. And okay. Now I'm getting a request for Adult Education by Out of Touch is a much better song. Okay, Moon and Scorpio. Ruling is Mahavedi Kamala, the goddess of assurance. Skill, to be like a wise owl in a tree, peering out and observing. Actually, here you go, JP. Here's a trivia question for JP. JP, what do you call a group of owls?
A hoot?
No. You want to take another guess? Or
crows are murder. Oh God, I don't know. A boing. I don't know. It's a random word. It's a really random word, isn't it, Sean?
Do you want a hint?
Go on.
It has to do with your form of government.
Oh, a parliament of owls.
Yes, good. A parliament of owls. Very good. The skill, be wise like an owl in a tree, peering out and observing. Negative imprint, feeling restricted, stealing, making noise but saying nothing, surrendering to domination, jealousy, difficulty expressing feelings. The positive imprint of this moon is rebirth, making melodies from sound, consultations, choosing wisely, objectivity, contemplation, teamwork, taking something and making it better. Now, the planets align in a special configuration today that enables messages to be powerfully transmitted into the collective mind. So powerful.
Sorry.
I love you, man. You're all great. I love everybody on the station. I don't care if Nighthawk is a backside sniffing pornographer. What the hell? It's which he's not, by the way. But it's so funny when you have to deal with the fundamentalist born again Christians. It's like this week we just shook a tree, and they all just lost their minds. The smear is flying all different ways, and people are all, calling into the station and yelling things like, Jesus Christ is my Lord and personal Savior, and he's going to come back, and he's going to kill you, and all that sort of thing. So anyway, power to infuse a background or subliminal communication into the message is provided by the position of Mars at the degree of the Sabian symbol. This is very interesting. The Sabian symbol for this is a hidden choir singing during a religious ceremony. Interesting. A hidden choir singing during a religious ceremony. So I have to find some. See, so now he's going to sing in the background. So that's all good. I got to find this here for you. I'll play something. I'll play cosmic music. Hold on. I got to find some cosmic music here. All right, I'm going to play some cosmic music here while I'm doing this. So this is my subliminal background. My subliminal background. Now I sleep to this every night, by the way.
Disappeared.
What's that?
Sorry, you disappeared completely for 5 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So what this is that you're just going to hear this in the background while I read this piece, but right here you can sort of hear it. What this is the actual sound of the planet Earth taken from a satellite, a NASA satellite. And you'll find that the actual sound of the Earth actually resonates at 7.83 frequencies. So that's the sound of the Earth from space. That's what we sound like. And what I do is I play this every night. I can't sleep without it. And they use it for sleep deprivation in Japan. And it's a very, very calming, very, very soothing tone. And so we actually sell it on our website. If you check out strangeuniverseradio.com, you can also see all the books and everything else up there. There's one other one, too, which is actually called Celestial Dolphin. And Celestial Dolphin is the sound of the earth that's then mixed with the sound of the ocean, that's then mixed with the sounds of dolphins and whales. There it is. So that's sending a healing, a clearing frequency. This is going directly into the minds and the brains of all the wiggly, squiggly, trolly people, all the monkeys in the tree when we shook the tree this week. There it is. It's going into your mind, into your brain, calming you, chilling you out. There you go. So, anyway, back to Song of Earth. So, okay, so here the planets, as I said, it's the planets align in a special configuration that enables messages to be powerfully transmitted. And as I said, the Sabian symbol is a hidden choir singing during a religious ceremony. So Mars turns this spiritual energy messianic with the ability to stir up fervor. So energy for the best possible delivery of the message is leveraged from the position of the Earth at the degree of the Sabian symbol, which is the first mockingbird of spring sings from the treetop. So this gives the message the flavor of being innovative, revolutionary, and able to be ahead of everyone else. Now, the force to spread the message comes from Mercury, the messenger himself, at the degree of the Sabian symbol, which is a parrot listening, listening and then talking, repeats a conversation he has overheard. This implies the mimicking of what is heard and not processing it for oneself, because we have mockingbirds and parrots, both birds who mimic. So forced to spread the message. Energetics to enhance the level of noise or dissonance that the message can stir up comes from Saturn at the degree of, quote, a military band marches noisily through the streets. So the potential to enhance militaristic action comes with this symbol. Now, a line of energy that prompts people to come together and be part of the winning team comes from Venus at the degree of a game of cricket at the time of the message. And this prompts a feeling of you are either with us or against us. So this is the phase that we're entering into as we come into the holiday season. Now, a message that has the ability to stir at the heartstrings comes courtesy of the sun, which is at the degree of an Indian woman pleading to the chief for the lives of her children. And this is the fiercest force of all. This symbol images the plight of children trying to make their way in a harsh world, unprepared for what they face, and a mother begging someone who has authority to determine life and death to spare them. Compassion tries to be invoked. Now, this is very interesting because if you consider politically what's about ready to happen, with Obama probably signing an executive order, and there's going to be another massive rush for the border, probably no doubt with tens of thousands of children and women coming across the border. It's going to be very interesting to see that compassion being invoked for, well, heck, you're invading our country. And finally, the almighty power of emotion is now added with the moon at the degree of the symbol of, in Scorpio, mind you, a drowning man who's being rescued at the time of the message. A savior, a liberator, a defender, a guardian angel delivers salvation to those who are going under for the third time. So if you wanted to deliver a message that would have the power to affect the future of the world, would you do it under these energetics, specifically at 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, so at the very end of this program? Such a message is scheduled to be delivered at that time from Washington, D.C. So the Illuminati astrologers have chosen very well. So watch what happens at the end of this show. Turn on CNN, turn on Fox News, turn on whatever it is you watch, and there's some kind of announcement that's going to come out of Washington, D.C., because they've chosen this particular time for something shocking, something startling. So you see what, because this is all Illuminati picking this now. So there's a wild card here. As the sun rises over Washington, D.C. today, Venus is at the degree of an old owl up in the tree. Not a parliament of owls, mind you, but an old owl up in the tree. Now, wise owl sees what others miss. They see the setup. The message is a game. It's going to try to incite violence and rebellion It's bold and it pushes the limits. It will play into other messages that are being delivered, messages that will also try to incite violence and rebellion. It's an attempt to provoke, but it will not work out the way that they intended. Like all their moves this year, this one will not go the way they planned. Humanity is really more like a parliament of owls, not a pandemonium of parrots or a murder of crows. No disrespect to the gifts of the parrot intended. But we have divine sources helping us see through the game into wisdom. All of these themes can be taken into the realm of our individual lives. The energy affects the macro level of global affairs as well as the micro level of interpersonal affairs. So we can apply it to our own lives. So today, we practice the skill of being like the wise owl in a tree, watching and ready to respond, not to react. By the way, here's a note for astrologers. Mars will be crossing the descendant over D.C. at 8 p.m. local time tonight, with the ascendant, descendant, and Mars being in a tight square to the Eris point. The Eris point is the feminine energy, another face of Eris, the goddess Columbia, the feminine half of the namesake for Washington, D.C., by the way. The other being George Washington, of course, that the Illuminati historically loved to try and manipulate. So in the Sibley chart, for the birth of the United States, the U.S. natal Mercury is aspected at 8 p.m. So for those who did not know, the U.S. natal chart Chiron, which is wounding, is in the degree of the Eris point, 21 degrees Aries, which will be activated by Mars with a square. And it's an attempt, whatever's going to happen, whatever's going to come out is going to be an attempt to wound the nation. To wound the nation. So watch what happens. Turn on your TVs after this and take a look at what's going on. And because it might have something to do with immigration, just to let you know, Mexico is facing an escalating political crisis amid growing fury over a mansion built for the presidential family and the disappearance and probable massacre of 43 student teachers. Now, the two apparently unrelated issues have fed the widespread perception that unbridled political corruption is the underlying cause of the country's many problems, ranging from stunted economic growth to a breakdown of law and order that has left parts of the country at the mercy of murderous drug cartels. The drama of Mexico is about impunity, said a leading political commentator, Jesus Silva Herzog. This is not about the popularity or unpopularity of the president. That is irrelevant. It is about credibility and trust. At its root, it is about legitimacy. Thousands gathered in Mexico City on Thursday ahead of what was expected to be the largest demonstration so far over the students' forced disappearance by municipal police in collusion with a local drug gang in the southern city of Iguala. Classmates of the missing students have spent the past week traveling the country in an effort to start unifying the diverse protest movement around clear goals for future change. On Thursday night, 3 groups of students are due to lead separate marches which will converge at the capital's main Zocalo Plaza around nightfall. Beyond the lives of the government, we have the possibility to start moving an entire country towards change, said student Omar Garcia, told MVS Radio in the morning. Protests were also planned in other major Mexican cities around the world. Preparations for the march dominated social media in Mexico, with Twitter users posting slogans such as, "There will be mass graves big enough. There will not be mass graves big enough to shut us all up." Now, Twitter was also abuzz with warnings that provocateurs could infiltrate the protest, fed by photographs of army vehicles filled with young people in civilian clothing. A large peaceful march in Mexico City on November 8 ended in violence, with masked youths torching the wooden door of the ceremonial presidential palace. Many protesters claimed the assault was provoked and circulated photographs and videos showing alleged government agents who had participated in it, later who slipped behind police lines. While the focus of the protest is indignation over the government's handling of the disappearance of the 43 students, there is also significant anger over its clumsy efforts to dismiss serious allegations of a conflict of interest involving President Enrique Peña Nieto himself. And late on Tuesday night, First Lady Angelica Rivera attempted to mitigate the scandal over a multi-million-dollar minimalist white residence built to measure for her and Peña Nieto in one of Mexico City's most exclusive barrios. The house is still owned by a subsidiary of a company with a long history of obtaining lucrative contracts from Peña Nieto's administrations dating back to his term as governor of the state of Mexico. In her address, Rivera, a former telenovela, she's the first lady, is former telenovela star. It is I who killed Sophia. She said that she was going to sell her interest in the house, but vehemently insisted there had never been any strings attached. I don't want this to continue to be a pretext for offending and defaming my family, she said in typical telenovela style. Rivera said that she had been paying for the house from the fruits of her labor earned 25 years longer than the television giant Televisa that ended in 2010 with the payment of $88 million, which is about $27. No, it's $6.5 million. And the transference of property of another luxurious residence that backs into the controversial new mansion. She said she'd already paid about a third of the cost of the new home, worth $4 million, in accordance with the contract that she signed with the company over 8 years ago. Anyway, other analysts detect a menacing tone in things that the president is saying. It's dangerous because it polarizes the climate. The solution has to start by recognizing the legitimate foundations of the collective irritation. The country has good reason to be angry, and with Thursday's key demonstrations approaching on the 104th anniversary of the Mexican Revolution, the authorities announced the cancellation of the annual military parade that usually fills the capital's central streets on that day. So this is the chaos that we're just letting into. Our dead bankers, like all 10,000 bankers at the bottom of an ocean. Start. The global head of Citigroup's environmental and social risk management was found dead in his New York apartment on Tuesday with a laceration to his throat, and investigators said late Wednesday that it was a suicide. Yeah, I love all these bankers just cut their own throats. Oops. He was shaving. It was a mistake. The body of Sean D. Miller, kind of a smarmy-looking guy with one of those flesh-colored beards, was discovered in the bathtub of his condo in Manhattan's financial district. By the way, you slit your wrist. You don't slit your throat. Slit his own throat, apparently with a throat-slitting machine of some kind. No, they claim this was a suicide. Guy slit his throat, dumped in the bathtub, and they said here it was. Police initially believed it was a third party was responsible because they didn't find a weapon. And then suddenly a weapon appeared. After moving the 42-year-old, police discovered a knife beneath his body in the bathtub, which means they just stuck the knife in the bathtub before they dumped this poor schmo in, said the New York Daily News. Investigators had been trying to find a man with whom Miller was seen walking into the apartment at 120 Greenwich Street at about 6:30 p.m. Monday night. The man later left alone. There were no signs of forced entry. A crime that was discovered about 3 p.m. Tuesday. A worried friend called the building located near Albany Street and asked if the doorman could check on Miller. The doorman said the caller identified himself as Miller's Canadian boyfriend, according to the Post. Yeah, he looks pretty gay. The banker was pronounced dead at the scene. A medical examiner will determine the official cause of death. Police said Wednesday they found drugs and alcohol in his apartment, okay, including what they believe to be crystal meth. Yeah, it looks like he does crystal meth, too. Investigators say Miller had hooked up with a stranger for sex on Monday using the website Backpage.com. Guess that's big with gay suicidal bankers. Citigroup acknowledged the death of the managing director in a statement that it sent out on Wednesday. So yet again, another interesting guy who, by the way, Miller was managing director for Citigroup's environmental and social risk management team. And according to his profile on LinkedIn, he's been with the company since 2004. He worked on sustainability matters, including mining and renewable energy policies. He oversaw environmental policies that were implemented in 100 countries. And it was thought of as a leader and pioneer in sustainable finance focused on creating change and building sustainable business through collaboration, engagement, and partnership with others. He formerly worked for the World Bank Group's International Finance Corporation. Miller graduated from Syracuse University in New York in 1995, and the investigation is ongoing. So, as I said, there's one more dead banker for you. And I don't even know if this is a story, but Iggy Azalea, I think I'm saying her name right. I'm sure somebody out there will correct me if I'm not, but she responded to apparently Iggy Azalea. Okay, she responded to Eminem's soon-to-be-released song "Vegas," in which Eminem threatens to drag the 24-year-old singer behind his Humvee and then rape her. The successful Australian singer expressed her disappointment in the 42-year-old rapper. Can you really express disappointment by this time with Eminem? Really, I'm very disappointed in you, young man. Don't you think he just needs really a good spanking? In a series of tweets on Thursday, I'm bored of the old men threatening young women as entertainment trend and much more interested in young women getting dollar sign trend zuzz, Z, she wrote. Okay, so she's ignorant as well. But it's Iggy's tweets come after a 1-minute clip of the disturbing track from Marshall Mathers' band Bad Meets Evil with Royce Da 5'9" premiered on iTunes the day before. Biatch, shut the F up and get in my car and suck my effing while I take a da-da-da. And I think with my D, so come blow my mind. It tastes like humble pie, so swallow my pride. You're lucky just to follow my ride. The 13-time Grammy winner is heard rapping. Just intelligent lyrics. If I let you run alongside the Humvee, unless you're Nikki, grab you by the wrist, let's ski. So what's it going to be? Put that shite away, Iggy. You don't want to blow that rape whistle on me. Scream, I love it, before I get lost with the getting off. Oh, lovely. The Fastlane duo, which formed in 97, will drop their entire Shady 15 compilation album on November 24th. Oh, yay. In order to remain culturally relevant, Eminem shamelessly name drops at least 3 other powerful pop divas, Nicki Minaj, Keisha, and Lana Del Rey, all of whom I presume he and his black friends want to rape as well. On past albums, Slim Shady gave Mariah Carey, Amy Winehouse, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilar, and Kim Kardashian similar treatment. In the past, Eminem also rapped about viciously murdering his ex-wife Kim in 2 songs, Kim and 97 Bonnie and Clyde. His only biological child, Hallie, who turns 19 next month. Oh, my God. Eminem has a 19-year-old kid now. She graduated summa cum laude from Chippewa Valley High School last June and called her parents her heroes in the graduation pamphlet. Eminem also has custody of adopted niece Elena, who's 21, and Kim's daughter Whitney, 12, from a previous relationship. What? Kim's daughter? Oh, I see, from previous relationship. Meanwhile, Iggy, born Amethyst Kelly. Really? Amethyst isn't a good enough name for you? You got to be Iggy? Is preparing to perform alongside Jennifer Lopez at the American Music Awards. According to TMZ, executives at host network ABC have reportedly set some ground rules for what is acceptable when both the ladies take the stage, because we have to control. Just throw a big blanket over both of them is what I say. Iggy denied the duo have been asked to make changes to their act, however, and wrote on Twitter, I'm not sure if the executives are worried about me and J-Lo's performance. LOL. I haven't even been to a rehearsal for it yet, so 0.0. We haven't been asked to make any changes, so there are no plans to expose anyone's nipples or vaginas, but okay, TMZ, if you say so. And with that being said, we aren't performing. With that being said, we aren't performing in turtleneck sweaters either. Ha 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 ha. So there we go. Actually, Eminem's daughter is really hot, strangely enough. Haley, who turns 19 next month. Graduated summa cum laude. They got actually a picture of her. And then a picture of Iggy Azalea. So, all right, there it is. Why that's even relevant on Strange Universe, I have no idea, but there it is.
Well,
and
apart from the fact that Marshall Mathers sold his soul to the devil to become Slim Shady.
There you go. See, there's sort of a satanic thing going on here.
Yeah, it's dark. It's dark. Have you not seen that Illuminati? You can YouTube it. Illuminati music business exposed, and is named by Farhan K. And it's all about how Eminem and Michael Jackson and all of these people sell their souls to the devil, but who they deal with is the Illuminati. So that's the link, you see.
Well, Mick Jagger claims he did. I mean, Mick Jagger actually claimed in an interview, I sold my soul to the devil to get out of jail, where he was at the time, and to become the most popular, powerful rock singer in the world.
Yeah, Bob Dylan as well. He's in that movie.
Bob Dylan?
Yeah.
Well, I thought Bob Dylan turned around and became a big Christian guy, I thought. He was like, he got really bold.
Yeah. He's been wriggling, you see. He's been trying to wriggle his way out of it.
Oh, okay.
And this, the song I Shall Be Released has a different meaning. And very recently, didn't Obama give Bob Dylan a special award?
Huh.
some sort of freedom award or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
I think that was that was part of the deal.
Yeah, Bob Dylan got the Medal of Freedom Award. It is interesting. I have I wish I could find the clip somewhere, but Jim Carrey was actually on Jimmy Kimmel the other night. I still have it saved on my TV. I'm going to see if I can record it. But Jim Carrey came on and did this weird thing where he made a triangle symbol with his hands and stuck his tongue through it and made this whole thing about, don't you understand that I'm the leader of the Illuminati that controls the entertainment business? And he did about a 3-minute speech with Jimmy Kimmel just going about the Illuminati and its control of the entertainment business. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it's well, of course.
No, I'll try and pull it up.
Jimmy Kimmel over there, but actually, if you put Jim Carrey, Jimmy Kimmel Live is the name of the show, and Jim Carrey raps about the Illuminati. I'm sure it's on there somewhere. Meanwhile, 2 Austrian teenage girls, since we're talking about silly women, 2 Austrian teenage girls who ran away to Syria. This doesn't even sound like a real story. This is on Russia Today, by the way, which is sort of like, I don't know, like Russia's high school newspaper. But 2 Austrian teenage girls ran away to Syria to join Islamic State fighters, to join ISIS. Okay, hot Austrian girls just said, we're going to go join a bunch of murderous, beheading scumbag Muslims in the desert. Security service insiders told Austrian media that the girls have managed to contact families, and apparently they've decided that joining ISIS is not such a good idea. The pair left home to join ISIS. In April, little information was immediately known aside from that one had been 16 and one was 14 at the time of their departure. Both reportedly married Chechen fighters after their arrival in Syria, and both became pregnant. Samara Kezanovic and her friend Sabina Selimovic are children of Bosnian migrants, but grew up in Vienna. On their departure from Austria, they left a note telling their parents, "Don't look for us. We go to serve Allah, and we will die for him." Okay. Okay, great. You got the carrying. Oh, hold on. Let me finish the story. Samara Kezanovic and her friend, Sabina, since their departure, pictures have emerged online of the pair brandishing Kalashnikov rifles, hey, fun, and wearing a full niqab. However, Austrian police have claimed that their social media accounts were overtaken and were manipulated by ISIS. It is clear that whoever is operating their pages is probably not the girls, and the way they are being used for propaganda, a security expert told the Austrian Times. Interpol released images of the 2 girls in April after they disappeared. Both sets of parents have been attempting to make contact, and unconfirmed reports have stated that communication has been established. Both are currently believed to be in Raqqa, in northern Syria. According to Vienna-based newspaper Osterreich, Samara wants to return home as the horrors of Syria have become too much. What were you expecting? It's Syria, the vacation spot of the Middle East. It's swimming pools and movie stars. The newspaper, which is known for its close links both to the security services and the children's families, say that death is a constant companion for the girls. Because you joined ISIS. There is some hope for women wishing to flee ISIS, however. In recent days, a Syrian woman fled from IS to Turkey. However, Sabina was reportedly, quote, not yet ready to return. Anyway, they may find attempts to return difficult. The main problem is about people coming back to Austria. Once they leave, it is almost impossible, said Karl-Heinz Grundboeck, a spokesman for the Austrian Interior Ministry. I would think so. It's, Germany. It's hard to get out of. There usually was a big wall around it. Okay, we have this clip, and so just rock and roll it. Go.
Dumb and Dumber 2 opens tomorrow. Please say hello to Jim Carrey. Is that a gang sign? Have you Oh, like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is. Right? Yeah.
What is it?
Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it, and it is the all-mocking tongue. It's the symbol of the all-mocking tongue. And I'm sick of it. I want everybody to be in on the joke, man. You know what I mean? For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. You know, and they get out there in the woods in a circle naked and they decide these things. And, you know, and you know, look at him trying to cover it up. It's hilarious, hilarious. And, you know, and I'm sick of, hold on a second. You know what they're trying to do? Who? This thing is buzzing. Hold on. They're trying to turn us into, you know, consumer drones of some sort. Hold on, I just got to get this.
And, yeah.
Yeah, listen, I'm in the middle of blowing the lid off some...
He answers his phone. And his face goes robotic.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I was temporarily interrupted by my iPhone 6 Plus. That's 5.5.
That's a big one, huh?
5.5 heads-up HD display. I think what I was really trying to say was I think people really enjoyed Dumb and Dumber this weekend.
And that is what I thought
you were about to say. They should all go to the theater. They should all go to the theater tomorrow and see it. Because we could use a good laugh. Ha, 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 ha.
What a clever little memester he is, Mr. Carey.
There it is. And there was, oddly enough, I'm not sure where the websites were, but they were actually all saying that the Jim Carrey is apparently head of, I don't know, the new Satanic Coven, or head of the, I don't know. They were actually, I think it's a put on, because he was saying somewhere on one of these websites, I don't know. There's two people who claim there's two people who are cops. All right, it's a man and a woman cop team who now claim that apparently they are the reincarnations of Elijah and Moses, and that they are which again is really funny because they're born again Christians who don't believe in reincarnation, but that they are the two witnesses, and they're the people that put out the big Michelle Obama is a man video that then said, you know, and look, Venus Williams, the tennis player, is also a man, too. You can see because her ring finger is longer than her index finger. They are all men. And, of course, they are being foisted off as women in society, which proves that, I don't know, we're run by Satan or something like that. So it's his way of mocking it, because there's been all this web buzz that somehow Jim Carrey has now become the new, I don't even know, the Imperial Wizard or something of the Illuminati. And, you know, and like for example, if you I guess if you run askance of them or something, and Jim Carrey shows up at your house with a bunch of Charles Manson's wives or something, and, you know, has you murdered on the lawn or something like that, and which is why it's really funny, because remember I had this whole story about Shmuel Tadepezchev, and he was the president of the Russian Tennis Foundation, and he was fined $25,000, and then he was banned from the women's tour for a year after he jokingly referred to tennis players Serena and Venus Williams, and it was in post-match comments, and he referred to them as the Williams brothers on a television talk show, and Tarpezchev was attacked viciously by the political correctness police for joking about the masculine, muscular, rather buff sisters who look like men So he was banned for a year from all that. So anyway, so there's Jim Carrey for you. In an open letter to the UN's panel on climate change, top meteorologist John Coleman, who co-founded the Weather Channel, by the way, wrote, and he says, quote, "I have studied climate change seriously for years. As a meteorologist and climatologist, it has become a political and environmental agenda item. But the science for climate change is simply not valid. Instead," added Coleman, quote, "what little evidence there is for rising global temperature points to a natural phenomenon, not one caused by man," unquote. So there you go. There's the guy who founded the Weather Channel telling you that it's all a bunch of bunk. More than $1 billion in U.S. taxpayer money that was intended for Iraq's reconstruction. They're never going to see it. It's all ended up in a bunker in Lebanon, but no one knows for sure. Stuart W. Bowen Jr., who was appointed by President George W. Bush to investigate where the U.S. money went in Iraq, testified before Congress early in October. He said billions of dollars have gone missing in Iraq over the past decade, but the Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction has been unable to locate any of it because Congress shut them down before they could track it down. In other words, Congress said, no, we're not going to show you where that money goes. All right, just to show you how crazy the elections are in the United States, and I know this for the rest of our international audience, of which we have, I think we have about 30 people that listen inside the United States and about 17 that listen around the world. So,
oh, really? I thought it was about 14, but well, you've improved.
I think we have 3 more people. I actually got book orders from South Africa. I got Germany. I got Canada. I got I don't know, Liberia or something like that. So, but a Kentucky write-in candidate. Yeah, you'll appreciate this one, JP. A Kentucky write-in candidate right there in the headquarters of Revolution Radio. Robert Ransell. You can imagine what a write-in candidate in Kentucky would be like. He's running for Senate with the campaign motto. You ready for this? Here's his campaign motto, straight out of Kentucky. And I think it's pretty snappy, JP. With Jews, we lose.
Really?
That's his motto. Jews,
nice
we
one.
lose.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course,
I'm
his
sure
party
he's riding high on the polls.
Yeah. His party is the White Guard. Last I checked, aren't Jews white? Are you not supposed to be white or something?
I think Jews are kind of whiter than white. They're sort of pale blue.
I think they're
really
a little pasty. He says, I seek to show white people the facts regarding the Jewish role in America's decline, as well as highlight the destructive effects that multiculturalism, diversity, and political correctness have had on this country. I had no negative interactions with Jews before becoming aware of the role of organized Jewry. I'm surprised he didn't say jewelry. Of organized Jewry has had in the decline of America and the Western world. So I want you to analyze that statement. In other words, I've never had a Jewish person do anything bad to me. I've never had a bad interaction with Jewish people, but I read some stuff that they're bad. So therefore, I'm making my campaign slogan, with Jews we